Chapter 15. By 7 o'clock that evening, Trisha's mood has unaccountably transformed. Or maybe not so unaccountably. I arrived downstairs in the hall to see her wandering out of the living room with cocktail glass, bloodshot eyes, and a high collar. "So," she says benevolently, "you're going out with Nathaniel tonight." "That's right." I glance at myself in the mirror. I've gone for a fairly informal outfit, jeans, nice simple top, sandals. He's a very attractive young man. She eyes me inquisitively over the top of her glass. Very muscular. Yes, I suppose so. "Is that what you're wearing?" She runs her eyes over my outfit. "It's not very jazzy, is it? Let me lend you a little something." "I don't mind not being jazzy," I began, feeling a few qualms, but Trish has already disappeared up the stairs. A few moments later, she appears holding a jewel box. "Here we are. You need a bit of glitz." She produces a diamante clip in the shape of a seahorse. "I got this in Monte Carlo." Lovely," I say, eyeing it in horror. Before I can stop her, she sweeps my hair to one side and plonks it on. She looks at me appraisingly. "No, I think you need something larger. Here." She fishes out a large jeweled beetle and clips it to my hair. "Now, you see how the emerald brings out your eyes?" I gaze at myself speechlessly. I cannot go out with a sparkly beetle on my head. "And this is very glam." Now she's garlanding a gilt chain around my waist. "Let me just hang the charms on." "Charms?" "Mrs. Geiger," I begin, flustered as Eddie appears out of the study. "Just got the quote in for the bathroom," he says to Trish. "Isn't this twinkly elephant gorgeous?" says Trish, hooking in on the gilt belt. "And the frog." "Please," I say desperately, "I'm not sure I need any elephants." 7,000, Eddie cuts across me. Seems quite reasonable, plus VAT. "Well, how much is it with VAT?" says Trish, rifling in her box. "What's that? Where's that monkey gone?" I feel like a Christmas tree. She's hanging more and more glittery baubles off the belt, not to mention the beetle, and Nathaniel will arrive any moment, and he'll see me. "I don't know," retorts Eddie impatiently. "What's 17.5% of 7,000? 1,225, I respond absently. There's a stunned silence. Shit, that was a mistake. I look up to see Trish and Eddie goggling at me. Or something, I laugh, hoping to distract them, just a guess. "So, have you got any more charms?" Neither of them takes the slightest notice of me. Eddie's eyes are fixed on the paper he's holding. Very slowly he looks up, his mouth working strangely. "She's right," he announces. "She's bloody right. That's the correct answer." He jabs the paper. "It's here." "She's right?" Trish breathes in sharply. "But how? You saw her. She did it in her head." They both swing around to goggle at me again. "Is she autistic?" Trish seems beside herself. Oh, for gosh sakes. Raymond has a lot to answer for, if you ask me. "I'm not autistic," I say. I'm just quite good with numbers. It's no big deal." To my huge relief, the doorbell rings, and I rush to answer it. Nathaniel is standing on the doorstep, looking a little smarter than usual in tan jeans and a green shirt. "Hi," I say hurriedly. "Let's go." "Wait." Eddie blocks my way. "Young lady, you may be a lot brighter than you realize." "Oh, no." "What's going on?" asks Nathaniel. "She's a mathematical genius," says Trish wildly, "and we discovered it. It's just extraordinary." I shoot Nathaniel an agonized, she's talking nonsense look. "What formal education have you had, Samantha?" Eddie demands, "other than cooking?" Oh gosh, what did I say in my interview? I honestly can't remember. Here and there, I spread my hands vaguely, you know. "It's the schools today," Trish declares. "Tony Blair should be shot." "Samantha," Eddie says self-righteously. I will take on your education, and if you're prepared to work hard, mind, I'm sure we can get you some qualifications. This is getting worse. I don't really want any qualifications, sir, I mumble. I'm happy as I am. Thanks anyway. I won't take no for an answer, insists Eddie. Aim higher, Samantha, says Trish with sudden passion, gripping my arm. Give yourself a chance in life. Reach for the stars. As I look from face to face, I can't help feeling touched. They only want the best for me. Well, maybe. I surreptitiously divest myself of all the jeweled creatures and slip them back into the jewelry box. Then I turn to Nathaniel, who has been waiting patiently on the doorstep. Shall we go? So, what was all of that about? Asked Nathaniel as we start walking along the village road. The air is soft and warm, and my new hair is bouncing lightly, and with every step I can see my toes, painted in Trish's pink nail polish. You're a mathematical genius? No, I can't help laughing. Of course not. I can just do sums in my head. It's no big deal. Must be useful. It can be, but I'd rather be able to cook like your mom. She's wonderful. I think back to the serene, homey atmosphere of the cottage, sitting at Iris's table, feeling sated and sleepy and secure. You must have had a really happy childhood. We were pretty happy, Nathaniel assents. Of course, Dad was alive then. It sounds like they had a fantastic marriage. It wasn't all hearts and flowers, Nathaniel grins. Mom can speak her mind, and so could Dad. But it was grounded. They knew they belonged together, and that was more important than anything else in life. He smiles reminiscently. When they got really mad with each other, Dad would go and chop wood in the barn, and Mom would chop vegetables in the kitchen. The two of them would be at it furiously. Jake and I would be creeping around, not daring to make a sound. Then what happened? One of them would crack, he says, laughing. Usually Dad. He turns his head. How about your parents? I tense up with apprehension. I'm not sure if I'm ready to start talking about myself yet. They split up when I was little, I say at last, and my mom works hard. It wasn't really the same. People do what they have to do, says Nathaniel after a pause. It's tough for a single woman bringing up a family on her own, having to make ends meet. Yes. Somehow I sense he might have formed a slightly different idea of Mom from the reality. We walk on, passing an old stone wall covered with a profusion of climbing roses, and as I breathe in the delicious scent, I feel a sudden buoyancy. The street is dappled with soft evening light, and the last rays of sun are warming my shoulders. Nice hair, by the way, says Nathaniel. Oh, thanks, I say nonchalantly. It's nothing really. Flick. So, where are we heading? The pub, if that's okay? Perfect. We walk over the bridge and pause to look at the river. Moorhens are diving for weed, and the sunlight is like amber puddles on the water. Some tourists are taking pictures of each other, and I feel a glow of pride. I'm not just visiting this beautiful place, I want to tell them. I live here. And what about you? Says Nathaniel. Before you came here, what's your background? Oh, you don't want to know. I give him a brush-off smile. Very boring. I don't believe that for a minute. His tone is light but persistent. Did you have a career? I walk for a few paces without responding, trying to think what to say. I can feel Nathaniel's eyes on me, but I twist my head away from his scrutiny. You don't want to talk about it, he says at last. It's hard. Nathaniel exhales sharply. You've had a bad time of it? Oh, gosh, she still thinks I'm an abused wife. No, it's not that. It's just a long story. Nathaniel doesn't look put off. We've got all evening. As I meet his steady gaze, I feel a sudden pull, like a hook inside my chest. Although it'll be painful, I want to tell him. I want to unburden everything. Who I am, what happened, how hard it's been. Of all people, I could trust him. He wouldn't tell anyone. He'd understand. He'd keep it secret. So, he stops still in the street, his thumbs in his pockets. Are you going to tell me who you are? Maybe. We're only a few yards away from the bell, and there's a small crowd outside. A couple of people greet Nathaniel, and he waves back. The atmosphere is casual and happy. I don't want to puncture the mood. But not right now. I smile at him. It's too nice an evening to spoil with all my problems. I'll tell you later. We make our way through the crowd. Some are standing by the door, others sitting at the wooden tables. What are they doing? I asked. Waiting, he says. Landlord's late. Oh, I say. I look around, but all the tables are already taken. Well, never mind, we can sit here. I perch on an old barrel, but Nathaniel has already headed for the door of the pub. And that's odd. Everyone is standing back to let him through. I watch in astonishment as he reaches in his pocket and produces a big bunch of keys, then looks around to find me. Come on, he beckons with a grin. Opening time. You own a pub? I say in wonderment as the initial melee of the evening dies down. I've watched for 15 minutes as Nathaniel has pulled pints, bantered with customers, given instructions to the bar staff, and made sure everyone is happy. Now the initial rush is over, he's come round to where I'm perched on a bar stool with a glass of wine. 3 pubs, he corrects me, and it's not just me. It's our family business. The Bell, the Swan over in Bingley, and the 2 Foxes. Every seat seems to be full with people spilling outside into the tiny garden and onto the forecourt. The chatter is tremendous. How on earth do you keep the pubs running and have time to be a gardener? I ask. Okay, I'll come clean. Nathaniel lifts his hands. I don't serve very often. We have a great bar staff, but I thought it might be fun tonight. So you're not really a gardener? I am really a gardener. He straightens the bar mat. This is business. There's the same tone in his voice as before, as though I've trodden on something sensitive. I look away, and my attention is caught by a picture on the wall of a fair-haired middle-aged man. He has Nathaniel's strong jaw and blue eyes, and the same crinkles around his eyes as he smiles. That's your dad, I say cautiously. He looks wonderful. He was the life and soul. Nathaniel's eyes soften. Everyone here, they all loved him. He takes a deep slug of beer, then puts his glass down. But listen, we don't have to stay. If you'd rather go somewhere else, somewhere nicer. The pub is bustling. Some song I vaguely recognize as the current hit is playing above the noise of talk and laughter. A group of regulars are greeting each other by the bar with cheerful insults. A pair of elderly American tourists in Stratford t-shirts are being advised on local beers by a barman with red hair and twinkling eyes. Across the room, a darts game has started. I can't remember the last time I was in such an easy, friendly atmosphere. Let's stay, and I'll help. I slip off my bar stool and head behind the bar. Have you ever pulled a pint before? Nathaniel follows me. No, I pick up a glass and put it under one of the beer taps, but I can learn. Nathaniel comes around the bar. You tilt the glass like this. Now pull. I pull the tap and a burst of foam splutters out. Damn. Slowly. He puts his arms around me, guiding my hands. That's better. This is nice. I'm in a blissful, happy haze, enveloped in his strong arms. Maybe I'll pretend I'm very slow at learning how to pull pints. Maybe we can stand like this all evening. You know, I begin turning my head toward him, and then I stop as my eyes focus on something. There's an old wooden notice on the wall stating, "No muddy boots, please," and "No working clothes." Underneath, another notice has been pinned. It's printed on yellowing paper and faded marker pen, and it reads, "No lawyers." I'm dumbfounded. No lawyers? There we are. Nathaniel holds up the glass, full of gleaming amber liquid. Your first ever pint. Great, I say. I pretend to examine the pump, then gesture casually at the sign. What's this? I don't serve lawyers, he replies. Nathaniel, get over here, someone calls from the other end of the bar, and he clicks in annoyance. I'll only be a moment. He touches my hand, then moves away. Immediately, I take a deep gulp of wine. He doesn't serve lawyers. Why doesn't he serve lawyers? Okay, just calm down. I instruct myself firmly. It's a joke. Obviously, it's a joke. Everyone hates lawyers, just like everyone hates estate agents and tax collectors. It's an accepted fact of life. But they don't all put up signs about it in their pubs, do they? As I'm sitting there, the red-haired barman comes up to where I'm standing and scoops on my side of the tank. Hi, he says, holding out his hand. I'm Eamon. Samantha, I shake it with a smile. I'm here with Nathaniel. Eamon nods. Welcome to Lower Ebury. I watch him serving for a moment, my mind working. This guy will know something about the sign. So, I say when he comes back over, that sign about lawyers, it's a joke, right? Not really, Eamon replies cheerfully. Nathaniel can't stand lawyers. Right. Somehow I manage to keep on smiling. Why is that? Ever since his dad dies, Eamon hefts a crate of orange mixers onto the bar, and I shift round on my stool so I can see him properly. Why? What happened? There is some lawsuit between him and the council. Eamon pauses in his work. Nathaniel says it should never have been started in the first place, but Ben got talked into it by the lawyers. He got more and more stressed by it and couldn't think about anything else. Then he had a heart attack. Gosh, how awful, I say in horror. Eamon resumes hefting crates. Worst thing was, after Ben died, they had to sell off one of the pubs to pay the legal bills. I'm aghast. The last lawyer came in this pub. Eamon leans conspiratorially across the bar. Nathaniel punched him. He punched him? My voice comes out a petrified squeak. It was on the day of his dad's funeral. Eamon lowers his voice. One of his dad's lawyers came in here and Nathaniel socked him one. We tease him about it now. He turns away to serve someone and take another drink of wine, my heart hammering with nerves. Let's not freak out here. So he doesn't like lawyers. That doesn't mean me. Of course it doesn't. I can still be honest with him. I can still tell him about my past. He won't take it against me, surely. But what if he does? What if he punches me? Sorry about that. All of a sudden Nathaniel's in front of me. Are you okay? I'm fine, I say over brightly, having a lovely time. Hey, Nathaniel, says Eamon, polishing a glass. He winks at me. What do you call 5,000 lawyers at the bottom of the ocean? A start. The words jump out of my mouth before I can stop them. They should all rot away into hell. There's a surprised silence. I can see Eamon and Nathaniel exchanging raised eyebrows. Okay, change the subject now. So, I quickly turn to a group standing by the bar. Can I serve anyone? By the end of the evening, I've pulled about 40 pints. I've had a plate of cotton chips and half a dish of sticky toffee pudding, and beaten Nathaniel at darts to loud cheers and whoops from everyone watching around. You said you hadn't played before, he says in disbelief after I nail my winning triple eight. I haven't, I say innocently. There's no need to mention that I did archery at school for 5 years. At last, Nathaniel rings last orders with a resounding clang of the bell, and a good hour later, the last few stragglers make it to the door, each pausing to say goodbye as they leave. He must know every single person in this village. We'll clear up, says Eamon firmly as Nathaniel starts picking up glasses 5 at a time. Give those here. You'll want to be enjoying the rest of the evening. Well, okay. Nathaniel claps him on the back. Thanks, Eamon. He looks at me. Ready to go? Almost reluctantly, I slide down off my bar stool. It's been an amazing evening, I say to Eamon. Brilliant to meet you. Likewise, he grins. Send us your invoice. I'm still buoyed by the atmosphere, by my win at darts, by the satisfaction of having spent the evening actually doing something. I've never had an evening out like this in my life. No one in London ever took me to a pub for a date, let alone to the other side of the bar. On my first evening out with Jacob, he took me to Les Sylphides at Covent Garden, then left after 20 minutes to take a call from the States and never returned. The next day he said he was so bound up in a point of commercial contract law, he forgot I was there. And the worst thing is, instead of saying, "You bastard," and punching him, I asked him what point of commercial contract law. After the beery warmth of the pub, the summer night feels fresh and cool. I can hear the faint laughter of pub-goers up ahead and a car starting in the distance. There are no street lamps. The only light comes from a big full moon in curtained cottage windows. I really, really loved tonight, I say with enthusiasm. It's a great pub, and I can't get over how friendly it is. The way everyone knows you, and the village spirit. Everyone cares about each other, you can tell. How can you tell that? From the way everyone claps each other on the back, I explain. Like, if someone were in trouble, everyone would rally around in a heartwarming way. You can just see it. I hear Nathaniel stifle a laugh. We did get the most heartwarming village award last year, he says. You can laugh, I retort, but in London, no one's heartwarming. If you fell over dead in the street, they'd just push you into the gutter after emptying your wallet and stealing your identity. That wouldn't happen here, would it? Well, no, says Nathaniel straight-faced. If you die here, the entire village gathers round your bed and sings the village lament. My mouth twists into a smile. I knew it. Strewing flower petals? Naturally, he nods, and making ceremonial corn dollies. A small animal runs across the road, stops, and regards us with 2 yellow headlamps, then skitters into the hedgerow. How does the lament go, then, I say. Goes something like this. Nathaniel clears his throat, then sings in a low, mournful monotone. Oh, no, he's gone. Well, what about if it's a woman? I match his deadpan manner. Good point. Then we sing a different lament. He draws a deep breath and sings again on exactly the same tuneless note. Oh, no, she's gone. I can't help but laugh. Well, we don't have laments in London. We move on. Big on moving. Londoners big on staying ahead. I know about Londoners. Nathaniel runs his hand along a hedge. I lived in London for a long time. Nathaniel lived in London? I try and fail to picture him strap hanging on the tube reading Metro. When? I was a waiter on my year off before uni. My flat was opposite a 24-hour supermarket. It was lit up all night with those bright fluorescent strips. And the noise, he winces. In 10 months of living there, I never had a single moment of total darkness or total quiet. I never heard a bird. I never saw the stars. Instinctively, I tilt my head back to look up at the clear night sky. Slowly, as my eyes adjust to the blackness, the tiny pinpricks begin to appear, forming whirls and patterns that I can't begin to decipher. He's right. I never saw the stars in London either. My dad taught me the constellations, Nathaniel says, looking up too. He had a telescope up in the attic. Nathaniel, what happened with your dad? I speak tentatively. He even told me there was a court case with the council. Yes, his voice tightens. There was. Was he suing them, or... I trail off. It was all so bloody pointless, he exhales. It started when the council dug up the road outside one of our pubs for 8 months. They ruined access to it and business went down, so Dad sued them and lost. That's when he had his first heart attack. That should have been the end of it. I bite my lips. So what went wrong? Then some other lawyers made contact, more expensive. I can hear the bitterness in Nathaniel's voice. They persuaded Dad he would win an appeal. They kept whipping him up, pressing the right buttons. They knew he was ill. Mom and I tried to talk him out of it, but he just called us negative. Dad always believed he was in the right. He kept saying justice would prevail. He trusted those bastards. Nathaniel is silent for a moment, then adds, he had the next heart attack a week after they lost the second appeal. It killed him. Nathaniel, I'm really sorry. That's awful. Thanks, he says after a pause. It was a pretty bad time. I feel chastened after hearing his story. This is a side of the law I have no experience of. Genuine concerns on people. At Carter Spink, the deals may have been huge, but I was pretty much cushioned from real life. How about you? His voice brings me back to earth. You were going to tell me about how you came to be here. Oh, I feel a spasm of nerves. Yes, right, so I was. This is impossible. I want to tell him, but how on earth can I now? How can I admit that I'm a lawyer? Well, I say at last I was in London, in this relationship, he prompts. Yes, I pause, racking my brains for a way to continue. Well, things went wrong. I got on a train, and I ended up here. There's an expectant silence. That's it, I add. That's it? Nathaniel sounds incredulous. That's the long story? Oh, gosh. Look, I turned to face him in the moonlight. I know I was going to tell you more, but are the details really important? Does it matter what I used to do or be? The point is, I'm here and I've just had the best evening of my life, ever. I can see he wants to challenge me. He even opens his mouth to speak. Then he relents and turns away. I feel a plunge of despair. Maybe I've ruined everything. Maybe I should have told the truth anyway, or made up some convoluted story about a nasty boyfriend. We walk on again into the night without speaking. Nathaniel's shoulder brushes against mine. Then I feel his hand. His fingers graze against my own, casually at first, as though by accident. Then, slowly, entwine round mine. I feel an arching inside as my entire body responds, but somehow force myself not to catch my breath. There's no sound except our footsteps on the road and the hooting of an owl. Nathaniel's hand is sure and firm round my own. I can feel the roughened calluses on his skin, his thumb rubbing over mine. We come to a stop at the entrance to the Geyser's Drive. He looks down at me silently, his expression almost grave. I can feel my breath thickening. I don't care if it's obvious I want him. I was never any good at the rules anyway. He releases my hand and puts both hands round my waist. Now he's pulling me toward him. I close my eyes. For goodness sake, comes an unmistakable voice. Aren't you going to kiss her? I jump backward. Nathaniel looks equally shocked. His arms have dropped to his sides. I turn round, and to my utter horror, Trish is leaning out of an upstairs window holding a cigarette. I'm not a prude, you know, she says. You are allowed to kiss. I shoot furious daggers at her. Has she never heard the word privacy? Carry on. Her cigarette end glows as she waves it. Don't mind me. Don't mind her? I'm sorry, but Nathaniel and I are not having our first kiss with Trish as a spectator. I glance uncertainly at Nathaniel, who looks as nonplussed as I feel. Should we? I'm not even sure what I'm about to suggest. Isn't it a lovely summer's night? Adds Trish conversationally. Lovely, calls back Nathaniel politely. This is disastrous. The mood is totally broken. Thanks for a great evening, I say, trying to keep a straight face. I had a great time. Me too. His eyes are almost indigo in the shadows. So, are we going to give Mrs. Geyser her kicks, or leave her in an unbearable frenzy of frustration? Trish is still leaning avidly out the window as if for the floor show. Oh, I think she probably deserves the unbearable frenzy of frustration, I say with a tiny smile. So I'll see you tomorrow? I'll be at your mom's at 10 o'clock. He holds out his hand, and we barely brush fingertips before he turns and walks away. I watch him disappear into the darkness, then turn and head down the drive to the house, my whole body still pulsating. It's all very well getting one over on Trish, but what about my unbearable frenzy of frustration? Seriously.